Hello, hunters, whores, completionists, cheevo, spammies, and trophy hunters. It is a pleasure to be back with you, and welcome to episode 90 of Push2Plat. Tonight we're in for a treat. We're drifting back to the Xbox side, but look, we're going to be covering a lot of interesting angles. The player we have on tonight, he is the number one game score holder in Australia. That's right, the number one. We seem to be on a run of those at the moment. But look, he is not a Hall of Famer, but perhaps we'll even touch on that. One of the interesting things about him, though, is he's not just a massive spammy. He plays all sorts of games and has a particular fascination with the simulation games, of which he's ranked, I believe, currently number 2 in the world for Xbox on simulation games. So we're going to have a wonderful conversation. Pull up your chair, put on a game, grind away if you so wish, but whatever you do, stick around for the chat. Let's jump over there now. My pleasure tonight to welcome Mephisto for the win, the number one Gamerscorer holder in Australia with a staggering 1.3 million Gamerscore, 2,000,000.1 for the TA score. That's like the true trophies, you know, that's a legitimate score, I'm told, you know, the rarity, that's the important one or some such nonsense or whatever. But he is here tonight. As I said, he's the recent number one gamer. He is a fellow Australian, and I'd like to welcome you tonight. How are you tonight, sir?
I am very well. Thank you, CJ, for having me on.
Not a problem. Now, we were just talking a little before, and as you said, you know, well, as I said too, this random, you know, Australian admittedly, but random PlayStation dude just messaging you out of nowhere. What did you think?
Honestly, at the start, I thought, is this guy going to take the piss? Is he going to come on and tease me for achievements because he's a PlayStation guy? But nah, it's all good. It's all good.
See, I always, this is the horrid side of being up higher on the leaderboards. Perhaps this doesn't happen on the Xbox, but often when you get random messages on the PlayStation, they're interested in games, Mephisto. So I thought we might have to go through that barrier first. But look, I'm not after his game collection, although it does look very impressive. We're going to get into all that shortly. We're also going to touch on some simulation tonight, listeners. But why don't we start with a little backstory? This guy has been playing for a long time. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your gaming history, sir?
Sure. I guess it all started when my parents bought me a Commodore 64. So that's showing my age.
Oh, wow.
That's where it all started. And from there, you know, spent a long time there cutting my teeth, and then went to Super Nintendo. I actually was Team Nintendo for a very, very long time. I was Super Nintendo, then Nintendo 64, then GameCube, and yeah, but then, you know, the whole Xbox Live drew me in on the 360, and I've been Xbox ever since, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose it really took off for me on the Nintendo 64, playing, you know, I was in high school then, playing with all my friends. Every weekend we'd get together for some, you know, split screen F-Zero or Mario Party or Mario Tennis, you know, all those classic games. And then, yeah, I suppose that's where it all started. And yeah, here I am today, I suppose.
I have to go back because you mentioned the Commodore 64.
Sure.
We weren't allowed gaming systems, but of course we, you know, pillaged and raped the neighbors' ones whenever we could. And I remember California Games. I remember it fondly.
Oh, yes. Yes.
You know.
Classic game.
Now, I know it's a throwback here. We're testing your memory or whatever. I remember the hacky sack. Oh my goodness, the hacky sack. And the surfing. Yes. Did you have a particular favorite and one that you hated in there?
Oh, you're really testing my memory. Was there a BMX? I seem to recall some BMX that I really was good at. So I think that was probably my favorite. It might have been a Summer Games or one of that series. But yeah, I think I really hated the hacky sack. I can remember that
I think everybody
vividly.
did.
But I was only a kid, so I wasn't very, very good at games. I'm still not that great. But it's back then. Yeah, it was just all brand new to me, and yeah, it was wonderful. It was amazing. But you look at it now, back then, you're like, how did I even look at the TV, you know, the screen? But yeah, nostalgia's real, though. They were a lot of fun games on the Commodore 64.
Yeah, they really were. It's so funny because I mean, we can deviate into this if you like, but I don't really play any retro games now at all. So, you know, I'm maybe what people might consider a graphics whore, I suppose, to a degree. Yep. But I mean, you know, you've already said that as well. Is that sort of your preference as well, or do you still dip back occasionally into the Nintendo stuff ever?
Not really. being into Gamerscorer, you can't really afford the time to go back and do that kind of stuff. But a little bit, because I have I have three children, and one of them is very heavily into Nintendo. So we play a little bit together every now and then, but not as much as I probably should, because that's probably where all my great gaming memories are back then. So which should be nice, but yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Alas, I don't have the time.
I know what it's like. The achievements or the trophies, they always rear their head. So when was it for you? What game or what achievement sort of set you down this path? Do you remember?
I've been thinking about this because I thought you might ask something like this, but it's hard to pinpoint when it actually started for me. Like, obviously, I unboxed the Xbox 360, made my gamer tag, done all that, turned it on, and all that was there was Hexic at that time. That was inbuilt to the console, so played that, and achievements were popping up, and I'm like, oh, what's this? Because it was obviously brand new then. And I was always probably a little bit higher than my close friends, but not by much, because we played a lot, going through the early 360 days. We played everything that came out, and so it grew naturally. And then I found True Achievements, and I was looking for a few easier games just to see what it was like, and I played like an old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, and I did the Avatar, which is synonymous with the community. It's really easy. It's like a 5-minute thousand, and probably from there I was pretty much hooked, I suppose, and haven't ever really looked back.
Yeah, I like that. As I said, I was going back through your sort of tag there, and it seems to me like I notice a lot of trophy hunters. It's like a slow boil or whatever else. They're fine. They're like normal people for a while. Then the addiction kicks in. The rattle like of the quick plats or the quick chivos or whatever else. Shout out to Zidalon over there as well. Of course, of course, we know them well. Well, I know them well now. Wonderful company. But as I said, it sort of tends to build for a lot of people. But it seems early on that for you were really focused on this, because I went back through your blog, and one of your goals for 2013, if you can cast your mind back that far, was to have now this is a fantastic story. This is why I want to ask you about this. To have the highest gamer score in your state, in Australia there. Now, the TA leaderboards, you said at this stage, and I don't know if they do now, they didn't offer this state feature, which I know they offer in the US and Canada. Has that changed at all, or?
No, that hasn't changed. No. That's still, I actually asked TA if Australia could get it, because I think we had like the 5th most members. I think Germany had more than us on TA, and I can't remember who. Obviously, the US, Canada, and UK did as well. But but they never really got back to me. So when you were saying about then, I messaged every single gamer above me and asked what state they lived in. I legitimately did that, and I didn't actually get that many replies. And from there, I kind of worked it out and thought, well, I don't know who you are. I'm just going to have to pass you. That sounds a bit egotistical, but that was my goal. So there was no other way to do it.
I think that's fantastic, because you wrote at the time that it was 79 people you messaged or whatever, but you got about 47 replied. But most importantly, and I love this logic because I may have fell under the same thing a few years ago, most importantly, you managed to find out the top 2 at the time. This Aussie Static was number 1 in your state, and this Random Nutter. Now, they've both sort of gone on. They seem to be a little bit more maybe on the TA side, but they're still playing. I don't know if you know these guys or if this was just a rivalry over the internet type thing.
Well, I don't really know them as such. It's funny. I kind of know Random Nutter because she's a female, and she kind of doesn't live very far away from me. I've never spoken to her in real life or anything, but I kind of from a few messages we piece it all together, and she's pretty high up still. So she's still gaming pretty hard from what I know, but I don't really know them very well, no, to be honest.
Okay, I like that. We'll come back to that. Now, this name here, Mephisto for the win. How did you settle on this?
Well, it's funny you ask, because I've been thinking about changing it for a few years, but now that I've got to number 1, it's kind of more hard to do, because that's kind of the people that do know me, that's how they know me. So I probably can't ever change it now, but I suppose it all started back in the 360 days when I made my profile. I was obviously a lot younger, and back then me and my friends did all the nerdy things, and we played a trading card game called Versus System. And that's a Marvel and DC game where you make teams out of your cards and you battle and try and win. And I suppose I was enamored with this card from Marvel who was Mephisto. And he was a really high level card, and he basically had an instant win condition if you could get him into the game. And for years and years, I tried my best to get it to work, and I just never could. So it kind of, yeah, that's kind of how it went. And if you did get him out, he would win you the game. So that's Mephisto for the win. That's basically where it came from.
See, that's good because I've been looking at it now for the last couple of weeks, and I sort of thought, I wonder if this is supposed to be a really sexual, perhaps euphemism or something here. And I know you're laughing, but the reason I say this is the number one trophy hunter or group of hunters in Australia. They used to run under the name Meet the Fucker, and that
Right.
is a perfect description of the personality behind that account. Although a lovely person, so whatever. But I wondered if it was this name you'd probably picked years ago, and it was had this aggressive mentality, but I like that story much more.
Yeah, looking back now, I think I probably could have come up with something better, because you look at the people that are high up and they're a bit more cleverer than mine, and I kind of get envious of a few people's gamer tags, and I'm like, oh, I wish I thought of that. There's a few around, but yeah, that's the story, and I probably can't really change it now. I wouldn't think. It's too far gone.
Yeah, no. Look, I totally understand that. Now, what I want to ask is, obviously it takes years and years to get to this sort of a gamer score or whatever else. What is, and it sounds like, often we hear about high-level people that burn out or they quit, and they usually burn all their bridges when they go, which is wonderful to see, of course, but there are still many passionate gamers, and we had Hakum on last week, the number one trophy hunter in the world, and he still talks like it's his first day gaming. He just loves it, and I already feel that from you as well. So what's sort of driven you on, or have there been periods where you're just like, nah, fuck it, I'm not playing anymore?
No, I've never really had a period like that where I've burnt out completely. It's I suppose I really enjoyed the competitive aspect of it. Like at the very start, I was a nobody, really. Still, I'm barely still anybody, but it's kind of, yeah, TA did a whole heap of Gamerscorer competitions, and I met a couple of groups of guys who were just as competitive as I am. I'll give them a shout out a bit later, or they'll probably throttle me. But yeah, we made a team, and it just the camaraderie and the competitiveness really pushed me further and further and further. And then because we were doing so well in these competitions, naturally I was going higher and higher and higher on the leaderboards and stuff. And then, yeah, when I was within sight of number one, I never thought I could be number one in Australia, but yeah, that's probably another story. But when I saw that it was possible, and I decided to just go for it, and yeah, I haven't really kind of looked back. I've had a couple of years where I haven't, like the year after we really went hard in the comps, really hard, like almost unhealthy hard. I had a year where I slowed down and didn't do anywhere near, I can do last month I would have beaten my whole year from that year. So yeah, it's hard because I'm juggling a family and a wife and work. So I can't go as hard as I probably want to all the time. So that kind of probably helps me a lot, because then I have a bit of downtime. I can, just relax for a week at a time and smash 10 games in a week. It's yeah, there's never really a time where I've burnt out completely. I hear of it, but it's never hit me. Yeah, I suppose because I find enjoyment in nearly every game, it helps me from burning out, I suppose. Even the really bad ones, I can find some level of enjoyment. So that's probably helps, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I think that the balance is so important. I mean, it's so interesting talking to some players, because you can tell straight away the ones that it's totally their life, which is awesome, or whatever, more power to them. But it seems to be the people that last. I mean, sure, it's expensive or whatever, hobby to a degree, but it does seem to be the people that last do have the balance. They have the family job, and I mean, you need it. I mean, I was going to say you're an aging gentleman, but you're nothing compared to me, and you're going to find this wonderful thing, where the arm starts to lock up if you play too much. So you need that time off.
You do. Yeah, you do. It's, yeah. I'm quite as easily, I could take it or leave it gaming on any given day. I do like to keep an achievement streak, but other than that, I could just play for 15 minutes and knock out my streak for the day and not turn the Xbox on again all day and be fine, or I could go the other way. It kind of depends. So I suppose that really helps, I suppose, but it wouldn't help climbing leaderboards even higher, because if you really want to compete, it's really got to be not 24/7, because that implies multiple people, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's got to be number one, and for me, achievements are high, but they're never going to be number one on my list. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that. I want to pick up on that, but I have to ask here: what's more important to you, gamer score or this true achievement score?
It's always gamer score for me. Like if if TA didn't have a TA score and it was just a gamer score tracker or site, I'd still be on there. It's all about it always only ever been about the gamer score for me.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Now, you have a respectable completion percentage. It's a little high, but I'll let it go at 66.8%. No, so we're trying to get it as low as possible. It shows you have diversity in your gaming. But
True.
but I have to ask, I mean, as you sort of alluded to, you play almost everything, but there is this simulation. Is this your preferred genre, would you say then?
It is my preferred genre. Yeah, it's my absolute favorite. I suppose I can't even really explain it. I suppose because it's a bit slow paced, it's methodical. Generally, the games are anyway, and you've got a plan, and it's far more my style, I'd say.
Yeah, okay, good. We'll come back to that, listeners, in the topic, because I see one of the games you've played before, and now you're playing again the new version or different version, is this Train Sim World, and I have many questions about this this experience. I suppose you could say very long experience, but we'll get there. I just want to just a little bit more on the rankings and stuff, because it doesn't seem like you're adverse to talking about them. Now,
not at all.
For a long time, my understanding is this big SXY, Big 6-1. However we say this, he was the #1 gamer in Australia, and then a few years ago he moved across to the PlayStation, and he actually, and I like full respect to him, he actually became, I understand, the first gamer to have both 1 million gamer score and also 1 million PlayStation points. I don't think anyone else had done that at the time, and he seems like a lovely gentleman. I don't really know him well, other than to say he reached out to me at one point, or we had a bit of a conversing a year ago, and he said I would be the top gamer in Australia across both systems, because it's easy to earn 1 million points on PlayStation. It's much harder to earn 1 million on Xbox. And at the time I was like, oh, you pretentious wanker. But now, having been on the Xbox side, I can see why, because you don't have the 8 stacks, that we have every week coming from Radalaika and stuff like this. So you have to be almost more inventive in finding these games, I suppose. So what I'm sort of dwelling at is here, do you find enjoyment in this sort of a research, or how are you finding these games to play?
Well, as you kind of said, I almost play everything to some degree. So I try a lot of different games, and sometimes I'm not even playing for achievements, if that makes sense. Like you talked about Train Sim World briefly. That's kind of an unwind game for me, because it's just so, it's so laid back. There's no stress. It's just play, you drive a train. I'm popping achievements on the way, not many, but I'm popping some. So I blast out an easy game and then put Train Sim World on, and I've done 1,000 for the day, which is pretty decent, an average kind of thing. And then I just play something relaxing for the rest. And sometimes I pop not much more than that. Sometimes I pop a little bit more. It's just I suppose I don't really I probably do a little bit of research, but that's only because I have so many friends that offer the information up. Like, this game can be done in 2 hours. This game can be done in 4. There's a method to get this game done in half the time it used to. So you're doing research like that, but it's not when I'm almost, in a way, I'm 2 different kinds of gamer. I'm gamer score, and then after I think I've popped enough for the day, and I've got more time, I'll put on something far more relaxing, far more enjoyable, and just chill out and play games, I suppose.
That's what I was wondering as well. I mean, whether you're solely for the achievement or whatever else, or the gaming experience as well. So that leads us naturally to the next question, I suppose. Are you a cutscene skipper?
Generally, no. Generally, I like to still be invested in the story. I know that's not the most efficient, but I pay money for these games. I do want to kind of get into them, and if I'm really hating a game and really just want to get through it, I will skip. But it's very few and far between that's the case. I don't skip usually. No.
This is a perfect answer, sir. This is what I want to hear. I mean, we had, I think you may have listened to some of that episode, the Macca episode, and my jaw almost hit the floor
yes.
when he said he's a cutscene skipper. He said, take out the gameplay. And then last week with Neo Mustard, well, these people, they're just here for the game loop and the achievements. They don't want any story or anything. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, it is. I kind of understand with Macca because he's getting guides out and he seems to want to be even more efficient than just the achievements. He's got, other interest in it. So I kind of understand, but I don't really get the cutscene skipping. If you're an actual, playing properly, I don't get it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, cool. Well, I want to go over to what you've been playing sort of recently in a moment, but I have to ask, obviously climbing the mountain to get to number one, and, it's been a long-term goal for you, as you've said. Once you get there, sustaining it is very, can be sort of difficult, and maybe the motivation or whatever goes. Is it important for you to stay number one now, or do you just not really care now you've done it?
I'd be lying if I said I won't be upset when I get overtaken, because it's inevitable. I will get overtaken. There's people coming that are faster scoring than I am, so that is inevitable. But I don't know. It's a hard question to answer, I suppose. Until I get overtaken, I won't know how I feel about it. But I've done it. I never thought I would, so I'm happy that I have. And I suppose whatever happens, I'll be happy. I suppose I got there. Not many people can say they've been number one in Australia or even their own country. So I got to be proud of that. And maybe in a few years' time, my life will change a little bit and I can start competing with these guys that are just crazy scorers. Oh, you have no idea, some of these guys. But
no, trust me, I know what it's like trying to I'm about 700,000 behind, so I totally understand what it's like. But it is what it is or whatever. I want to ask though, because you mentioned that twice now, that you never thought you could be. What changed in your mindset then?
Well, for a long time there was a guy on top and he gave it away. I think he's the guy you said that went to PlayStation. I'm not 100% sure because I didn't really know him. And that's about the time when I was really getting into it. So there was two guys going at it. And then when the top guy gave up, this other guy overtook and he went even more crazy. And he was up over 2 million. And I don't want to go into it too much because I don't know exactly what happened and I don't want to spread misinformation. But for some reason, his account got reset. So right back to zero. I'm not going to comment because I don't really know what happened. And so then at that point, I'm just chasing a target that's stationary because he's not scoring anymore really. So it was basically me and my friend Rogue 1992, and we were racing to get there, and I beat him, and that's how it happened, I suppose. When you're a million behind, I was over a million behind at one point, so I was never ever making up a million Gamerscorer on the number one Australian guy. And then once he got reset, it was basically a race, and I won that race, I suppose.
It's funny, isn't it? I don't wish any ill will to anyone in particular on the leaderboards, of course, here, sir. But you never know with gamers. Like, they might just die in a day and they're gone. These things happen, or I don't know what happens. They just disappear or whatever. I mean, I'm an older gentleman, but I'm in fair health. I think that is my best chance at this point. That,
how many people would you need to pass away?
We'd probably need like a tsunami or something, I believe, on an Asian beach, perhaps. But look, that's a story for another time. I do like that. But look, let's move. Now, look, I didn't ask you at the start. So are you a Hall of Famer now as well? Because you are the number one? Or how does all this work?
Don't get me started.
Oh, please. Now, I've got to ask.
Oh, no.
It's a tender subject.
Okay. I'm going to try and I'll be as simple as I can. When the Hall of Fame was announced, there was about a week before it really got going. So obviously I'm friends with Rogue, who's also an Australian, and we were like, we're not going to try and go for the three-week comp because we've used too much easy stuff. Someone's going to start a newish tag and just blast. So they were out. And we weren't 100% sure what would count for the lifetime awards, total achievements, total gamer score, because it was written in such a way that you could. We kind of knew Xbox 360 achievements didn't count. We kind of knew that, but we didn't know if backwards compatible counted, if Windows 10 achievements counted, if all these other things could count. So I'm a bit obsessive, and I was trying to work out exactly where I stood with all these other guys who aren't too far behind me Gamerscore wise, but you earn Gamerscore in different ways. So some people have more achievements than me, but less Gamerscore, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So was I ahead of these guys? Was I behind? How far could I make the gap up in 3 weeks? And we worked it out where we roughly stood. So yeah, Rogue decided to have a crack at the 3-week thing and got screwed over apparently. And I decided to try and catch the guy number one for achievements because we weren't sure if the guy that got reset was going to count. Because it was only TA that reset him, not Microsoft. So there was just so much, it was so unsure. And in the end, they didn't even give the prizes to the right people in Australia. So it was just a complete schmozzle. And I really had no hope because I don't know what statistic metric they actually still used even to this day. But that being said, if you look at it, I probably wasn't top for any of them anyway. There's a guy who didn't get a Hall of Fame. His name's Eden Weeks. He has the most game score on Xbox One. He was ahead of me for Xbox One. He never played 360. So he probably should have got it and didn't get it. And the guy that won lifetime most gamer score is the guy that should have won lifetime most achievements and didn't. So it was all, I felt like I deserved it, but wasn't to be.
Yeah, I'm sorry to drag you down that path, but it's refreshing to talk to someone that's not a Hall of Famer because almost everybody seems to be these days. When I talk to them, they mention it. But no, it's funny because being an outside observer, obviously on the Sony end, they only recognize you when your credit card bounces, no other time, or whatever else. So they're not interested in any way. But it's interesting to see that it was wonderful to see how involved Microsoft were with this. But from an outside perspective, I sort of thought, wow, it almost seems like one side of the company is doing this and the other side has no idea how this is going to be worked out in the end. But it's interesting to hear you say that.
That's how it felt the whole time, and I was messaging anyone I could get my hands on that would reply to me about what counted, what didn't count, because I wanted to have a genuine shot. I felt number one in Gamerscorer in Australia, but that obviously they're not just going to give it to me. I respect that, but I was even messaging like the Canadian Xbox Twitter and asking them what counted because they were at least talking to people about it. And I respect Microsoft for pushing achievements a bit and Gamerscore onto more people and doing these sort of contests, and the way they do the rewards program and all that stuff is great. But I think they could probably do a little bit better job of it in the future going forward.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, well, look, listeners, if you're just sitting there and you're thinking you're about to neck yourself because you can't hear the word Gamerscore again, I promise we will move across to the games now. But I have to ask you, obviously, you managed to get a Series X or whatever else, I'm assuming, with your gaming there. How are you enjoying it so far, the next-gen system?
I'm absolutely loving it, to be honest. Obviously, I don't know much about the new PlayStation or even the old PlayStations, but I feel like the step up, people are saying they can't really even notice a difference, but just the load times is ridiculously faster. I feel like graphically games are just better. That said, I probably need to play games that are more made for it rather than these Radalatka garbage. But to me, it is a wonderful machine, and I think they've done a really good job with the Series X.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, look, I wouldn't worry about the new PlayStation. The 3 people that got it are spruiking that it's amazing or whatever else, so we have to trust in their belief. And as far as small incremental step-ups, well, that's why we have the Pro and the Pro
That's
X
right.
and whatever else we're going to have with that thing. But yeah, no, look, it's an interesting thing because, in disclosure, I've only really moved my gaming across the Xbox in the last few months or so, and one of the things that I'm really enjoying, and I know that PlayStation doesn't have it, and I know there's a lot of people that listen that have the PS5 or whatever, and I know you're like, oh, you don't need it or it's useless, but is this quick resume feature, and I imagine you playing a lot of games and you're moving between games, it's an amazing feature for that alone.
Yeah, it is. It's there's a few games where it doesn't really help, but it actually hinders in some ways. But for the most part, I think it's great because some nights I can jump between 3 or 4 games and whatever's taking my fancy at the time, and the game will just be there where I've left it paused. So it is a great feature. And I've heard a few issues where people's save files are corrupted because of it and things like that. I haven't had anything horrible like that, but yeah, some games it's not great because it does like if how do I explain it? I suppose in my genre, the simulation genre, a lot of things are like timed and you're waiting, an hour before your resources regenerate, and the time is not running when it's in quick resumes and things like that. So that's a little annoying, which I think will be easy to fix going forward. But yeah, for the most part, it is a good feature.
Yeah, it's good to hear. Well, look, why don't we jump in to some of the games you've been playing recently before we touch on all this sim stuff? And look, feel free to throw out whatever you like, but I have to ask you about this thing first because I've never heard of it and I can't pronounce it either, which is a wonderful combination. Is this Quern? I'm going to go with Undying Thoughts.
Yeah, that's I think my latest one I fully completed, isn't it? I did it yesterday, and it's how do I explain it? It's like a adventure puzzle game. Pretty quick, 4 hours. Yeah, it's kind of like if you've played The Witness. Do you have The Witness on the PlayStation?
Yes.
It's kind of like that in a way. And yeah, it's just a cruisy, relaxing game, and I've ruined it by following a guide. But
I was going to ask that. Yeah.
For the most part, it seemed like a really, really good game, and it's a bit on the expensive side, but quick, fun, plays very well. It's ticks a lot of boxes, so it was good.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. Now, the other one I want to ask you about here, because I haven't delved this far into it yet, the addiction hasn't kicked in this strong, although I'm sure it's coming, is moving some of my gaming to mobile. Now, I assume this Mahjong, you're playing this on a phone, is that correct?
I am, yes, on an Android phone, yep.
Yeah, see, for a time we had, I don't know if you've ever run into him, this cool kid Joe, who was a bit of a feature for a few years ago, I think, on the Xbox, and he was telling me all about this, and he's like, CJ, to keep your streak alive, you've got to get it on your phone. That's the only way you're going to be able to do it. Now, is that the case with you? You use this as a safety net, I suppose?
No, I actually have a little bit of downtime when I'm working, and I do a few Mahjong puzzles and always have a bit on the go. There's probably, it'd be close to nearly a dozen games, I suppose, I can play on my Android phone and get Gamerscorer for. So that's great. I don't really need a streak saver because I play every day anyway, if that makes sense. But I can see why people would do that, because they're just easy. You can pop at any time. You can be out and about, whatever. If you've got a busy day, if you save it and plan properly, you could easily pop something in minutes if you did it properly.
Yeah, okay. Now, the other one that I wanted to ask you about here too, this is a game that it appeals to me. I love starting things like this and then, not seeing them through because they're massive in length as well. I mean, they're not good for Gamerscorer, I'm sure, but that's not the reason you play them. Although you have played a fair bit of this, I imagine, this Sea of Thieves. Obviously, I'm a PlayStation gamer. I never got to play it. I know it's been on the system here for a while. Why should I or should I not play this game?
Oh, you want me to sell it to you? Well,
what do you love about it? I
honestly couldn't even tell you what I love about it. It looks beautiful. It's going to sound so weird because it's cell shaded and the kind of game it is, but I just love seeing the water. The water blows me away every time I turn it on. It's definitely not an achievement game. I've probably put 2,000 hours in probably now, and one day I may complete it, but I just love it. I don't know. I play with my wife. She loves it too, so we get on a boat together. If you don't have if you're a solo gamer, you won't like it. Yeah. I'm telling you right now. If you have a few mates and you all play every now and then, you could get into it. It's changed so much from the day it dropped, even though I played it on the day it came out. It's such a better game now, and maybe the crap it copped early was justified, but the continual crap it still gets probably now is unwarranted. It is a shell of its, the game is amazing now. Well, it was great then, but to me, but now it really is amazing, and I think in some ways it's probably my favorite game from the Xbox One era. So,
You do a good job at selling it, sir. Uh, is it loosely like, now I could be completely off base here, so please tell me if I am, but is it loosely an MMO in style? Like, I know they're adding content all the time, and it sounds like you're playing with other people, all the time. Is it basically an MMO on the sea?
It basically is. It's I think they've just dropped the boat count per lobby, but I think you can have like up to 5 other boats in one world, and yeah, it's the game is designed to encourage ship to ship combat between humans, and I tend to avoid that because I'm doing my own thing usually. But yeah, if you kind of don't like multiplayer, then you won't like Sea of Thieves. But it's I suppose you would say it's definitely MMO in style, even though it's small, I suppose.
Okay, now the all-important question, what's the burn time in this game? How many hours does it take you, do you think, to really get into it, to sink your teeth into it? Is this like a 20 hours and then it's good situation? Or
if you were starting with people brand new, it will probably take you 10 to 15 before you really feel what the game is, I suppose. But if you join with people that are already established and they can take you straight to the good things, you can be straight into it if you enjoy it. Obviously, not everyone's going to enjoy it because not everyone enjoys every game. But yeah, I suppose it's hard to explain properly. But
yeah,
there's just I know at its heart it's literally just a go get loot, sell loot at its heart, and there's not much else to do. But they're adding more and more stuff as they go. There's like a single player, a campaign for just you and your crewmates, and even though you're still in the MMO world, so you can still get screwed over. But yeah, I suppose if you're not really into the whole multiplayer thing, you really won't like Sea of Thieves, I suppose I'm saying.
Okay, that's cool. And the other thing I want to ask you about, I stumbled upon this site, which I'm not going to name on here because I'm not sure how ethically correct it is in the Microsoft world or not, but they sell different things within games and things like this. So obviously I think it's legit, but I don't know. But they sell packs and costumes and things, which I assume are limited edition for quite a sizable amount of money. Now, is that sort of correct? Like these things have value, I suppose.
Yeah, they actually do. There was I don't know how well you know the controllers, but there was a Sea of Thieves controller, and it's a beautiful looking controller, and that came with a special skin, and that still is the only way to get that skin, as far as I know. So that retails a crazy amount now if you've got a code for that skin. They're just skins though to me, so they don't do anything. It's all just cosmetic, but I suppose you do want your avatar type character to look as best it can, I suppose. So people are willing to pay. So that's what the market price is.
As long as you can see it yourself. I'm mystified at these first person shooters where you can't even see what you look like. It's wonderful.
Well, for the most part, you can't.
Oh, it's great.
Unless you go into like the emote modes and start doing emotes, you can't even see yourself. You can see everyone else, but your weapons and stuff you can see, but not your own skin. No.
It's the Division 2 all over again. I love it. It's excellent.
Yeah.
Now, there is, of course, as you'd expect in a high-ranked game, plenty of Ratalaika spam here, which we don't need to touch. Other than, I made a joke at the start about Zyklon or whatever else. This company, it's quite, and I know, whatever, these things exist, but what interests me about this company so much is that, they're adding this Gamerscorer as it goes along or whatever else. And, I know we talked briefly about not having stacks on Xbox, but one of the things, while it's amazing to earn really quick Gamerscore or whatever else, and the same with platinums, to get all these Ratalaika platinums and, getting the 8 stacks or 6 stacks, it's wonderful to boost the score and the dopamine. But the reality is that everybody else at the top of the board is playing all the same games. So no one's moving ahead. All it's doing is taking you more and more time. Now, admittedly, this Zyklon is very, very fair on your time, a few minutes for the extra 1,000 or whatever else, but it's a precedent that you don't really have on the Xbox. Is it something that would, worry you or you think about? Or is it, how would you feel about having to play the same game so much? Or if they continue to do this, but the games extend, in length, I suppose.
Yeah. I suppose in some ways I'm a little bit jealous of the PlayStation stacks that you guys get, but I have played several games multiple times, so I'm not opposed to stacks in a way. But I just want to touch on your point about the people at the top doing all these Zyklons. I'm not sure how exactly, even now, what we've had them for a few months now, I'm still not sure how I feel about games getting 1000G title updates when they're 5 minutes long. I'm not sure how I feel because all the people above me are going to do them. So
Of course.
I'm not gaining any ground on those guys. The people below me, a big chunk will probably do them all as well. So no one's, so it's hard to explain, I suppose. I know all the top guys are doing all the easy stuff anyway, but it kind of feels if you're opposed, then you're not keeping up anymore. So I kind of feel like I'm almost forced. If I want to keep competing, I have to do them. I probably would anyway, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily good for the achievement community. I don't know, how do you feel about all the stacks that PlayStation get? Can I ask? Because I don't know much about it. I know you get an Asian stack and a North American stacks, and which we don't get very, very rarely. Do we get multiple stacks? So what do you have? Sorry, this is weird because I'm going to ask you a question, but do you have to buy all those again?
Yeah, well, look, it is weird because normally no one asks me anything on this. So it's wonderful to be asked, but no, look, I mean, there are two sides to it, and it's a funny thing because on the PlayStation, the gamers down the bottom, I think they like that are trying to build their score. They obviously really like it or whatever else, and PlayStation for a long time to build your score before these companies like Ratalaika, sometimes whatever the Brick Breaker is that's going everywhere these days. All these companies, the standard practice was to buy visual novels, which again, had 8+ stacks, but visual novels cost, sizable money, 60 US a game or whatever, and you're importing them. So it's a big cost. Now, these games are much more affordable, they're $5, $6, $7 or something. So, you can do 10 of these games to one visual novel. So there's been a real dissection, I think, in the PlayStation community, because obviously early on, a lot of the high-level gamers played all these now, and now as a result, a lot of new people coming in are not playing those games because they're way too expensive, but they're managing to push up. Now, sure, they're not going to pass them, perhaps, but they're going to get very close, and perhaps over time they will. And complicates because now it's an hour game, but you're playing it 6 times, so it's now 6 hours. Or whatever else. And it's none of these games you have to play, as you say, but it's this, I think, this fear of being left behind or something else. And it's almost like it's like an MMO, a level gate, but it's a time gate in that. And it was interesting to hear you say this as well, because it's the way I thought for a long time. It's only recently I've changed my views on this in gaming, but that you would play so much first to earn the score for the day, and then you'd play whatever you want. And it's a bit like these games. I have to play all these stacks of this game, and then I'll go and play whatever. And the problem with PlayStation, as we're seeing now, is that a lot of these top level hunters, and it's not Sony's fault or the devs' fault, it's their own fault, is that they're burning out because they've spent the last 2 years just playing these shitty games and for all their time. And that's one of the great attractions about the Xbox, is that you only have 1 or 2 stacks maybe of these games, so you're not spending all your time on them, I think.
Yeah. See, that would probably burn me out if I played the same game 6 times back to back. I think that is more proning to burning people out.
It's insanity.
Yeah. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it if Xbox did that, but I probably wouldn't do them back to back to back. I don't think. I'd maybe once each week, 1 a week kind of thing, maybe. But that's just me.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. That's why I find this Zidalon thing quite interesting. And I know we're getting in the weeds here, listeners, but, yes, my issue with that is a little bit the fact that they're not adding any more game, but then I suppose they're not adding any more cost either to these, as they add them. So it's a mixed bag, but at least, and I know there will be people that are listening and they're just like, this is just full of shit. You've convinced yourself of this, but at least you're only spending a few minutes here as opposed to spending hours, in this. So I suppose the time loss for that extra gamer score is not a lot, and you can still go and play other things. And as a result, you're never going to get to the very top if all you play is these things, because these other people, yourself here, you're going to finish these quickly and then move on to other games, which is pushing your score up as well. So.
That's exactly right. I don't know. I think for Gamerscore achievements, it's probably a bad thing that they're doing it, but for me personally, I like seeing my Gamerscore go up, and there's there's no cheaper or better way for me to do that than these Zidalon updates. So I shouldn't really complain, I suppose.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it is what it is. We can complain whatever we want; it's still going to exist. So.
Yeah, that's right.
It happens or whatever else. Now, is there anything else out of these recent ones you want to throw out, or should we move into your love of simulation and how this came about?
Can I talk about one more game,
Please.
Which your probably listeners will know a lot more about than I did? In January, I finally got to Nier Automata.
Fantastic.
And got the 1,000 in that, and I assume you've played it,
Mm-hmm.
and I just want to say it was an amazing game, and I wish I'd done it as soon as it went over to the Xbox, but I'm stuck playing Rattle like a garbage. So I finally got to it, did it in 1 week, and did the 1,000, and I absolutely loved it. So I cannot wait for the sequel, or is it a prequel? Replicant. I can't remember if it's a sequel or prequel, but either way, I can't wait.
Yeah. Now I have
So thanks, Sony, for that.
well, yeah, Square.
Yeah.
Microsoft don't own them yet. Still,
No.
I check every
No, not
week.
yet.
I check every week. It's only a matter of time, I feel. But I mean, it's an interesting point you bring up, because part of the reason I played on PlayStation predominantly for so long was the Japanese games. I loved the JRPG or whatever, and you know, until recent times, you haven't had those on the Xbox. Now you're getting a ton of them. Like when it rains, it pours. You're getting all the Yakuzas are there now. Most of the Final Fantasies are there. I imagine a lot of these games you've never played, obviously, because you've been focused on Xbox. Is this something you're going to look into more now, do you think?
Well, actually, I've played a lot of Final Fantasies, so I was ecstatic when they, even though they're only ports, I was ecstatic when they came across, and I actually used the end achievement in Final Fantasy VII for my millionth Gamerscore achievement. That's how much it means to me, Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, wow.
It's probably my favorite game ever, and yeah, so I've never played any of the Yakuzas or Dragon Quest, which are here now, but I'll definitely go through the Final Fantasies again. I've done them all before, 8, 9, 12. So I'll do them all again and get some gamer score out of it this time.
Is it difficult not being able to play the 7 remake, or are you sort of happy?
I don't know. How do I answer that? I suppose I'm happy in a way, because I kind of, I've seen some footage and read some reviews and seen some things, and it kind of seems like it would ruin it for me, because I have such a love for the game. And even going back and just playing a port, it still, to me, it was amazing. So I think I'm probably happy that I haven't been able to play the remake at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair enough. Now, let's circle back to this Nier Automata then. Very, very shortly, I think in a month or two, a couple of months anyway, the original game is coming out. They're remaking that game or whatever else. So this game, though, I've been told it's a much more friendly one. Have you played the original Nier before I jump off a mountain here?
No.
Good.
No, I haven't.
Good. And just in case you're going to question me, because my knowledge of that game is that it's kind of much more difficult. That's about as far as it extends. But when I played this game or whatever else, I was just blown away by the amount of gameplay in this, the variation of the gameplay, I suppose. And it was early on when I was starting to play Japanese games, and I hadn't played a lot of visual novels or whatever else. I wasn't used to just the general craziness of the Japanese games as well. Obviously, you'd played all the Final Fantasy and things. So what stuck out about this one in particular?
I'm not sure. I just really got into it, I suppose. I love the story, and just all the little all the little twists that opened up along the way, and the different viewpoints. I don't know. I just loved it. So I don't even know I guess when I'm comparing it to the garbage that I do play, it's amazing. So, but even compared to some of the other good stuff I play, it was top notch, and brilliant game.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
It's funny because I just finished the medium this afternoon. We won't get into that because I know you haven't played it, but I felt the same thing. Like, I didn't know why I kept playing it, but I couldn't stop playing it. It just sort of captivated me, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And there are things with that game that some people will like or not like, but it really drove you forward, I suppose. So I think the game loop in Nier, I can understand that. I have to ask, as a potentially a Chivo whore, I suppose. There's no disrespect there, of course.
No disrespect.
Did you use the achievement shop?
I did use the achievement shop.
Good.
I got as much out of it as I could properly, and then because I wanted to enjoy the game, that's kind of what I'm trying to do this year a bit more, is play something decent every month, playing something good. So I really wanted to get involved and get into it. So I played it as much as I could, but I wasn't going to keep going. Once I could buy them, I was out. I'd done the story every which way, so how'd I go?
Yeah, no, look, there's no need to flog yourself with these Japanese grinds as well after everything else is done.
It's true.
I totally agree. So, look, there's no better time now to segue across to simulation games because you just said then, you're trying to have more fun in your games this year and play them or whatever. Simulation games to me don't speak of amazing fun. They speak more of frustration and hours and hours and on end of skilled gaming, of skilled gaming, of course. But one of the things that I found interesting was you posted here in 2015 that you were number one ranked in Australia at that time or whatever, and you were aiming to climb higher in the world or whatever. Or sorry, you were number 3 perhaps or something like this, and climb higher now, which you've done. I think you're number 2 now in the world for Xbox for simulation games. So it's quite a serious matter. What is it? And it's not just what it's interesting about you. It's not just one form of simulation that you're doing. It's across the board with these sort of games. So what is it about this sort of almost like real life-esque and style game that you like?
I suppose I fell in love back in the day with SimCity, so that kind of probably started it. And then obviously as we get forward and move forward, the graphics get better and everything gets better. And now city builders are insane. Like City Skylines is just so in depth, and you basically can plan your whole city. So I just love games like that. So I suppose what draws me to it is I'm making all the choices. If I want to put something here, I can. If I want to, build no roads and make everyone walk, I can. I can do all this cool stuff, and I'm in control. So I suppose, does that give me like a godlike complex? I'm not really sure, but
Doesn't every game have that?
Yeah, well, I suppose. You say they're kind of stressful, but for me, they're not. It's the opposite. It's relaxing, and I can do it at my own pace, and and if I get stressed, I'll just raise their taxes and run off to Jamaica with their money. But I don't know what it is about simulation. I just really get into them, and even the poor simulation games, the bare bones ones, to me are just interesting and fun. And I don't know. I don't know of any other people that play for Gamerscorer and enjoy the simulation games like I do. But to me, that's my number one genre. It's just what I've always loved. So that's what I play.
Okay, well, let's jump into it a bit then, because one of the problems, like, it's great to hear you mention, like your City Skylines in there as well, and your Sim City before that, Civilization, all these games, whatever. But all these sort of Civ games and these city builders, they've always struck me as running so much better on the PC with the mouse and keyboard. How do you find them? Is that an issue for you as well on the console? I mean, the UI and stuff like this, or have you just you just deal with it?
Well, you have to just deal with it, or you don't play.
Yes.
But it's clear to see these games are made for PC. Just even in the menus and the way all the like you said, the UI they're all made for PC. And but I suppose you just got to deal. They try. They're not just ports, and the controller doesn't work, which is good. But a lot of them are poorly done, and some are better than others. But you just got to kind of deal. I suppose there's nothing else you can really do.
Like, do you ever go down the path of using, and again, this is showing my ignorance with the Xbox, but ever using a keyboard? Has it ever got that far, or a mouse? Or
no,
is it all
never
control?
ever. It's even when I'm playing on Windows 10, like I always use the controller.
Oh wow,
always. I'm just not a keyboard and mouse guy. I can't do it. I probably could if I practiced or played, but to me, I just prefer controller in my hand and play. That's all I've always been. So
yeah. Okay, I like that. Now, thinking about something like Train Sim World here. Now, I'm not that familiar with this game at all, but I know it's a massive time sink for the hours or whatever else. There's a massive number of achievements in this game as well. How do you, and this is what always interests me about simulation, because I like to let the game play, but, in the back of my mind, I'm sometimes like, oh, shit, I wonder how you're going to get the platinum in this. How's this actually going to work out? Because obviously you're spending so much time, I can imagine it's easy to go down the wrong path because the achievements want you to do stupid things at times or whatever else. Is that in your mind, or are you literally just playing it for the game and what comes?
No, I always will look at the achievement list and always have some sort of mini goal, like if I need to run like 50 passenger routes, so I'll just do a couple of passenger routes and work my way towards it. I'm not just in it blind. I never go into a game blind, as bad as that probably sounds. I'm always knowing. Even every little session of gaming, I'm always working towards an achievement. Even if I'm enjoying the game and playing it, there's always in the back of my mind, I know 20 more passenger routes and I've got an achievement here. Always know that. So,
Mm.
but you are right. There's a lot of achievements, and I may never get the full completion in that. It's just too much.
It's interesting because I have a friend and listener of the show who's just started on this train sim world, and he's going to try and finish it in a year. And then he sent me a message the other day, and he's like, I'm going to be playing this game and nothing else for the next 2.5 fucking years. And and look, he loves his sim games or whatever, so he's probably like as happy as a pig in shit or whatever. But one of the things he was telling me too is that there's on the PlayStation side, I don't know about the Xbox side, there are a lot of glitched, whether they're trackers or trophies or whatever else. Are you following the same, finding the same?
Yeah, that's a pet peeve, obviously, because I'm fully into it. I think in this day and age, it shouldn't be as prevalent as it is. Trophy and achievement glitches and trackers. It should be up to scratch, but it's not, and I think we're just stuck with it, unfortunately, on both sides.
Yeah, well, you say you're fairly into it. Now, I don't know if you're this far into it or not. I found this quite amusing and also terrifying. He sent me this link, and because I understand, and I can't remember the company that make this, but they also pay, influencers or whatever on YouTube and Twitch to play these games or whatever too, or they have some dude or whatever. And he was fully dressed up in the hat and everything, and he was really getting into it. Are you that far? Like, are you following this sort of stuff, or are you not quite that far?
No. I think my wife might speak to a lawyer if I kind of took it that far. But I didn't know that, actually. I knew there was people doing that for flight sim, like fully getting into pilot gear and stuff. But yeah, that sounds interesting. I might have to actually look up some of those people and see how, because they're really getting into it. For me, train sim in particular, because the tracks are so long, sometimes you can just get the train going and put the controller down and make a coffee, go to the toilet and come back, and everything's just fine. That's the kind of relaxing aspect of it to me. It's, obviously you have full control over the train, and it is a full simulation. You got to do like the proper startup, from what I know, and everything is as accurate as they can do. So it's just so relaxing, chilling, and the tracks are apparently proper. I haven't looked into it too in depth, but so looking at the scenery, it's all nice, and it's just so relaxing to me, I suppose.
Yeah, I like that. It's such a change from just, the pure, hunting these short games. I think it's wonderful. It's wonderful for us, our listeners to hear too. Now, I noticed you played this bus simulator recently. These games fascinate me because while they're perhaps not huge here in Australia and America, they are massive in Europe, these games.
They are.
So are you, and I know they like release one almost every year or something too. Was this just a one-time thing for you, or are you into this series?
No, well, it's the first bus simulator I've played. I've played a few of the trucking ones, but
Yes.
it was an interesting one. That's another long game, but that one obviously is far more high maintenance because you're driving the bus full time, so you can't just put the controller down. It was an interesting one, that one, because it's not an easy completion. It's actually pretty difficult. So I just find that no people that play for Gamerscorer, probably even trophies that matter, would play games like this, really. So that's it probably sets me apart a little bit. And Bus Simulator wasn't amazing, but for what it is, it runs. It is what it is. It's a bus simulator, and there's actually another one coming this year. Apparently, going to be even better. You'd hope, because that one wasn't great. But it's a bit of fun and something you can put on, and you don't have to spend 6 hours playing it. I probably would go insane, because it's literally just driving a bus, stopping, letting people on, making sure they pay. You couldn't do that for too long, but it's enjoyable for what it is, I suppose.
Yeah. See, I wonder about these sort of games, and correct me if I'm wrong here or not, but is it, and because I see you play a lot of different simulations, and the people that play these sort of games, they're well spread across a lot of them. It's not just your driving sims or whatever else, which unique breed as well. Is it the systems in the game more that's the attraction? Because I don't want to diss on any of these games, but you sort of alluded to that some of them graphically they're a little bit lower in quality. The studios are perhaps B grade studios for some of them, which is not, it's not a negative or whatever. But on the other side, the systems involved in these games have often put me off because they're so complicated.
Yeah.
So is that the side of it? Do you think is that nerdy side of the systems you really like? Or
I suppose in even bus sim, train sim, the city builders, it's more the freedom I think I really find enjoyable. like I said with City Skylines, you can kind of do whatever you want, and in a way, these are kind of the same. Obviously, bus sim, yeah, there's a route you follow and stuff, but you get to plan that, and you get to set. Well, not this one, but the new one, you get to set prices, and you get to do all these different things. And I think it's that I'm more enjoyed with. Yeah, it's kind of hard because I've been asked before, like, why do you like these games? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, these are like niche games, which they are. They're very niche, and for some reason, I just really relax playing them. So some people relax with shooters and put Doom on and just kill as many things as they can. For me, it's just drive a bus around a fake city. So I don't know. I can't really explain it in a way better than that. It's just, I think it's the freedom though. I think that because that's what they kind of all have in common. I'm in control. I can decide what I want to do, and not all games give you that much level of freedom.
I mean, it's such a change, I imagine, from linear games, because it's a funny thing. Like I detest linear games. Like in my mind, I'm just like, I want to get off this track. And it was one of the issues I had with the median is like, just push me along. I'll put the controller down. Fuck I don't even need to be here. But at the same time, I'm the gamer that and I know this is the reason simulation games I get scared of, and I don't play a lot of. And I know this is insane, but you can welcome to my madness, is because and it's you've said here it's relaxing and everything else, but for me it's the fact of like there are so many things here going on that I can't control everything. And with a linear game I can, because literally I can only go here and then I bounce off the wall and it's fine. So it's that balance, I think, that's really that's why I'm probing down this line, because I'm trying to find the answer for myself too, I think.
There is a lot like in City Skylines there is a lot going on, and if you can't balance at all, your city's just going to fail. So I suppose, but you do have the freedom to decide how you get your city thriving. So I suppose, it's maybe not so much with like bus sim. There's not as much to worry about. But to me, I find that I've always the Sims, like SimCity and all those old games, Sim Earth and all those old games. I thoroughly loved them, and it's just I don't know. I suppose to most people, they would find that a bit stressful. You have to micromanage like a whole city, and there's a lot going on. But to me, that's relaxing to me. I don't know. I'm trying to put it into words, but I don't even know how to describe it. I'm obviously weird. I'm obviously
I think it's good. I think, and I mean, listeners that are, playing whatever else. The reason I harp onto it too, obviously, is for, my own things, but also a lot of people that are so focused on score on the trophy side, and I'm assuming the same. They're micromanaging the way they play, to inquire the score. So to have this other thing going, it's wonderful, the balance. Now, because we're on city builders here, and this is a totally selfish question, but you'll have to indulge me because I see you did 100% this game. I've had it on the shelf forever. It was a while ago. You played it though, the Avon Colony. What is this worth playing?
I really enjoyed Avon Colony. It's like you said before, it's probably from a bit more of a B grade kind of vibe to it, but for what it is, it's a good game. It's a city builder, but you're in space and you've got tasks to do, and you got to try and get these tasks done before you fail. And each mission has a different reason to fail. So no, it's really good. It's actually not a too bad platinum, as you like to call it. So dirty word for me. No, not really. But it's not too bad. So obviously I did it because I'm into the Gamerscorer, into the simulation. So those easier ones get done straight away for me. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. So yeah, it's worth a play.
Okay, I might knock that off the shelf because it's been sitting there forever looking at me. Now, of course, not all simulation games are equal, and I'm thinking here of the recent completion you did. And I love this Studio Microids coming out of France or whatever. They're bullshitting us a game every 2 weeks, basically. It's almost the same game in the way that it plays. I'm talking here of the My Universe, My Baby. There's no shame on this show. There's no shame on this show because I'm playing this as well, so I think it's fantastic. I've played a few of these My Universe games now. What twisted your arm on picking this one up?
Well, not the price, I'll tell you that. Right. The simulation, so it automatically goes onto my list of probably will play at some point, and not many people on the Xbox side were playing it, which doesn't really surprise me at simulation. But a few people completed it, fully 1,000 in a couple of days, and I thought, hang on a minute, like that doesn't look too bad. And I kind of did a bit of research and saw it was only like a 5-hour game, and I'm like, all right, I might as well. But yeah, that's
Is it really a simulation? It's just a mini game.
well, it is.
Well,
Yeah, it's not really. Well, I have kids in real life, so I can tell you it's not a simulation.
yeah.
But that game, yeah, there's some things in that game I can't ever unsee. So,
Yes, the changing thing is wonderful, isn't it?
oh, yeah, yeah. Do we really want to get into that?
But, no. I just thought it was hilarious to see. Partly because, as you alluded to, they know how to charge for these games. But I thought it was wonderful because I don't know if you've played any of the others, but the first one that came to Xbox was the school teacher one, and it has an achievement on there that would take a long time. In fact, I have a feeling it's either glitched or no one has got it even yet. And then progressively, they've been getting shorter. The restaurant one was about 15 hours. I think the baby one is probably the shortest of them all so far. Yeah, so they're obviously adjusting the list, but one of the wonderful things if you do play a second or a third one of these is that they're just all mini games, and it's the same mini game but just with a different action. So this time you're changing the baby or you've got the baby on the thing, whereas before that was making a hamburger, but it was exactly the same. So it's just
in my mind that shouldn't even be a simulation game.
Yeah.
Like, the theory behind it would make it seem like a simulation, but the gameplay is not simulation, is it really? But no. It is what it is. I don't decide the genres. So
no, that's fair enough. Now, there's another game here I'm selfishly going to ask you about because I've been on the fence for this one for a while. I didn't know that it was a simulator, although I suppose it's very fetch questy. I think so. I can see how it would be. Is this Summer in Mara? What is this like?
That's an interesting one. Yeah, that's kind of, how do I explain that? Yeah, just a big ocean and lots of islands and a lot of fetch quests. That's pretty much the whole game is fetch quests. Little bit of crafting, very bare bones. It's not too bad. There's no story. It's literally go from here to here and get me this pineapple, bring it back, and then now I want you to make me some chocolate. So, but
does it scratch that? Does it scratch that itch though? That sort of fetch questy itch, or
not? Well, if you like fetch quests, you're going to love Summer in Mara because that's all there is. Yeah. That's the whole game. But it's not really simulation. So, but I did it, and it's on the longer side too. It's about a 30-hour game, and it just feels like it's never going to end. Never. Like it's just every time you bring them what they want, and it's not an easy task sometimes. You have to go somewhere specific to get the one item they want, go all the way back, and now they want something else. Like, just give me a whole list of everything you want, and I'll bring it all back in one go. That'd be nice, but no. Yeah, but sounds like I'm shitting on it, but it wasn't as bad as I'm making it sound, but not many Gamerscorer people would play it, I wouldn't think, being 30 hours long.
Okay, well, I'll put that back on the side list for now.
Probably a good idea.
It's pretty much the only reason we run this show, so I can just deviate and figure out what I'm going to play from other people, the guinea pigs in the field. But it's very useful. So look, conscious of the time, as we start to wind up here, I see that your current goals, you're aiming. It's a very reasonable goal, I feel. 1.5 million by the 1st of January 2022, and 1,000 games completed. How do you see this next year? I mean, we're now in the new console or whatever else. Microsoft, I'm told, are going to have some exclusives at some point this year. It'll be wonderful to see finally. One day. How do you see your gaming for this year? What are you looking forward to in what is coming out, and what should I be looking forward to, I suppose?
That's a hard question, I suppose. This year, like you said, I want to get to 1.5, and I don't need too much to get there. It's only like 180,000, which is what, 400 a day or something. It's not terribly taxing. If I just play every easy game, I'll probably get there. So that frees me up, time to play stuff I actually want. But because I've been so much into the Gamerscorer, I'm dipping back into games I should have done years ago. So that's probably more what I'll be doing this year. If something really good comes out, I will play it. But I've got Cyberpunk sitting there, but I'm waiting for a Series X patch. Yeah. So I'll play that when I can, and I'm not really sure what I'm looking forward to. I haven't really looked too much into what's coming in the near future. I love Bethesda games, so I can't wait for like Starfield, even though I don't know much about it. And that's probably not this year, I don't think. And obviously the new Elder Scrolls, but that's not this year either. So Not really sure this year. That's a hard question to answer, I suppose. I'm just gonna do everything easy I can and enjoy games in the meantime, and hopefully that gets me to that 1.5.
I like that, but I'm not going to let you off because it's a very nice answer. But well, what is the next thing you're going to play? What's the next anticipated thing? We'll throw out the short stuff here for a minute.
All right, the next big game. I don't know. Can I answer with stuff that's already out, or does it have
Of course, yeah. No, yeah.
All right. Oh, probably maybe Hitman 3. I don't know. I don't mind the Hitman games, maybe, but that's not really a Gamerscore game. But I don't really know. Not sure. I've got a lot on my shelf, so whatever takes my fancy that day, I suppose. You know what I mean? I don't plan too much. It's just whatever I feel like on the day. Yeah. Like I just started Kingdoms of Amalur, and I've been putting that off for a long time and enjoying that. Probably should have played it years ago, and that's probably where I'm at, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've missed a lot of good stuff.
It's funny. I really like your laid back attitude. As I said, listeners, and as you know, many of the guests, they come on with short notice or whatever, and it's the first time we get to speak. So it's always interesting, and it's just so wonderful, as I said earlier, just to hear your passion for gaming, Mephisto, and I just that you're just playing whatever you like. I think that's so refreshing because we sometimes hear about from the other side, they're very vocal, even though they're in the minority about not enjoying, or not being able to balance perhaps both. Whatever. So
yeah. Well, I already have a job. I don't want gaming to be a job as well.
That's I love that quote, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, it does for some people. I think,
yeah, it does
become that. Yeah, it's difficult. So look, if people want to follow on or see what you're up to, is there a way they can do that? Is there anything you want to push out there?
Well, really, I'm really only on True Achievements. I don't use the socials all that much. So yeah, you can look me up. My gamer tag Mephisto for the win, and shoot me a PM there, a friend request, and yeah, I'm happy to talk to anyone about games anytime.
Yeah, I like that. Well, look, again, I'd like to thank you so much for giving up some time tonight. It's been wonderful to talk to you. And, after you've recovered from this experience in a few months, perhaps I can extend the invite again in the future.
I would look forward to it very much. Thank you very much.
So there you have it, listeners. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Mephisto for the win, the #1 ranked Gamerscore holder in Australia. But look, way more than that, as I'm sure you'll agree with me. He's a passionate gamer and a super nice guy. So I do thank him so much for coming on tonight and for breaching the gap between us over here, us Sony ponies, and the Xbox Chivo hunters as well. I do appreciate that, sir. So look, I don't really have any hidden gems for you this week. It's a bit of a transition week for me, I suppose, with the gaming. I'm sort of dipped into a few things. I'd actually, cards on the table, listeners, I'd actually hoped to discovered this interesting stat thing on the PSN profiles. I'm sure many of you, you're all over that site, you know this, but if you go into your stats section, it ranks your games like, an S, an A, and B, basically on completion or whatever, where many of you, I'm sure, are up in that area. But of course, it goes down to the E and the F games. And the F games are the games that you've put on your profile, but you haven't yet started, which it seems quite appropriate, the F'd games. Now, I noticed that I have upwards of 600 PS4 games there, so I thought it's perhaps time to start some of these, and so that's what I did. I picked one that I thought would, be the usual gaming length of around 5 to 10 minutes, and then I'd move on, but I sort of got sucked into it, and I'm talking here of the Atelier Riser, Ever Darkness, and The Secret Hideout. Now, we've talked about these Atelier games before, these wonderful French games, with the wonderful Eigen Space. They're not a new series, and I know many of you may be familiar with them, although they are a niche, or somewhat niche, JRPG series. They're very much focused on the hunting, the gathering side of things. Yes, there's a lot of mini quests and item creation or whatever, but this sort of micromanaging of collecting things. And I've jumped into a few of these games in the past, and I've found them overwhelming because while the exploring and the collecting is fun, you have to use these ingredients in the alchemy, and it's confusing in some of these games. It definitely is, and I'm sure if you dig into one and you really get your head around it, then it becomes much easier. one of the other things, if you're familiar with these games, is that it's based on a time. You've got to do so much in a certain amount of time, sort of a day progression. So it's sort of gated in that way. And then some of them have multiple endings. Some of them even have these quizzes or tests, alchemy tests you have to do. So there's a whole lot going on there, missable trophies up the yang if that so interests you. But the wonderful thing about this game in particular is that there are no missables. There's only one ending which funnels you to it. It's very clear where you're supposed to be going in the story, and it adds for the alchemy an automatic item placement, if you like. You just tap the R1 button, and if you have the items, it'll put the best appropriates in the thing. Now, that's great to start with. It does get a little more complicated later, as I've found. I'm about halfway through it now, I think, and you have to do this item morphing. And again, if you've played these games, you'll be all over this. I'm sure this is a much easier version than the previous games, but it definitely takes a little bit to get your head around, because not everything in this game is explained very well. Well, not up front, I should say. There's a wonderful glossary and help section if you're prepared to read the 10,000 pages in there. But if you're just sort of clicking around and fiddling, it can be difficult particularly to figure out how to unlock these new recipes or how to item up the levels. I had one last night where I had to get this, wonderful bait or something at a level 70, and I was stuck at a 67. And anyway, so there's a bit of this random clicking nature. There's also a lot of RNG I'm finding with collecting the ingredients, in that some are higher level than others. But it's a really wonderful game if you just want to chill out. I imagine it'd be an amazing podcast game, potentially even an amazing game to have on in the background while you're doing something else and collecting all these things. There's a huge amount of fan service in a game that I would have thought is fairly family friendly. And I'm talking here, of course, of the tits off the screen, which is, why most of you are still on the PlayStation, I'm assuming. And it's just a sheer miracle that some of these very petite ladies can actually stand with the volume they're carrying around. But, look, if you're not averse to that, then you're going to enjoy this. And I noticed that on the store, there's quite a lot of swimsuits here, and I noticed they're quite revealing, so I assume that's where they're making their extra content money on this game. But of course, none of that's needed, and if you look the other way on that, it is a very family-friendly game, and I'm looking forward to delving more into that as I get down to 615 unplayed PS4 games. Unfortunately, this one sucking up more time than I expected. Then over on the Xbox, I started a little Nightmares 2. Look, it's wonderful. I've only played through the first level, so I'm not going to dwell on it. More of the same if you played the first one. The levels actually seem, well, from what I've played, seem to be longer, but the atmosphere is really oppressive. It's really intense. They're just really beautiful little games with platforming and puzzle elements. Again, I have no idea what the achievements are like, but coming in, I think it was like 30 Australian or something around this price. It's very reasonable for what it is, although I believe only around a 3 to 4 hour completion. And then the only other thing I really put into the rotation was this Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthbound, and by rotation I mean I downloaded it onto the Xbox, so I won't be offering any gems of wisdom on that this week, but perhaps next week I can give you all a little bit more love there. So instead, why don't we shift across to something that I am knowledgeable on this week, as in every week, of course, the spam of the week. So let's see if we can't push that trophy and Chivo score just a little higher this week. Who are we kidding? You don't need any help from me, but perhaps you could do with a little top up on the current week's offerings. We'll start with the Radalaika. This week we have the Ultra Goodness 2. It's available for PS4 and PS5, NA and EU, and it is a cross-buy, so 4 potential platinums here or 1 completion on the Xbox. And it is a top-down shooter. It's a little bit bizarre. Look, it's going to take you 20 to 30 minutes or so completing the, I want to say 6 levels. Some are shorter than others. All you have to do is go around and shoot every monster in this twin sticker. There's a few hidden pipes and things like this. There are some weird extra bombs and things that I never really partook in, but perhaps that would make it easier. But look, for a 20 or 30 minute time, it's kind of fun. Think Spirit Arena if you played it, but even shorter. Next up, I suppose, is some high-quality spam. Habroxia 2 from Lilimo Games. So the first one actually wasn't too bad, an arcade side-scrolling shooter. This one, they've made it longer. Colin Moriarty, now an owner in the company, has written the story, and there's plenty of text if you so choose to engage with it. This one will also have 2 mandatory playthroughs. You need to play in New Game Plus and complete New Game Plus, which is going to bring it in around 3 to 4 hours, generously, I would say. There's a bit more of a difficulty curve in this one as well, but if you've played the first one, you'll know there are plenty of upgrades there that you'll buy as you go. As a tip, I found the shot power, the range, and the fire rate were really the only ones that mattered. And if you naturally max those out, if you focus on those, then it's going to become very easy on the New Game Plus as you move through. Any extra you can whack on health, but it's going to be a super easy time. One of the interesting things about this game is they now provide an alternate path in some of the levels, which just means that at some point you're going up or down. It's adding an extra boss fight to the level. Of course, it means that you would need to play the level again. It's actually pretty fun, even though it's lengthy for a shorter spam title. And coming in at, I think, at $10 US or equivalent currencies, it's well worth a look, even if you're not going to stack it. The next one I've been eyeing off for some time, the Flatland Prologue. It's about a $2 Aussie game, so almost nothing in the US. Now, there is a full version of this game as well, with all the levels, for a little bit more, I believe, also with the Platinum. But this Prologue consists of only 10 levels. I suppose it's an introduction or proof of concept for the game, but it does come with the Platinum as well. There's no guide needed for this game. You just play the 10 levels. They flow very straightforward. It's very linear, if you like. There will be a hidden cube on every level, but you can replay any level at any time. And there's trophies for collecting a cumulative 500 coins without dying, but you can replay any level you so wish to make that easier for you. Some of the controls are a little bit floaty, and it has a wonderful dash mechanic that reminded me a lot of the Gravity Duck, although different in style. Look, for $2 and half an hour if you're used to platformers, or $2 and an hour and 10 minutes if you're not like me, it's an easy plat, and it's actually quite enjoyable if you want to get away from the guides. And so now we turn our attention to congratulating the hunters and huntresses for this week's Push to Plat Platinum shoutouts. Don't forget, if you want a shout out, you can check the Discord out or through the free community on the PS4. Look, I got most of the people this week, but if you're not in, you will be in next week, I promise. We're going to start with number 243 for I'm Styling on Your Bro, LA Noir. And of course, this game inspiring him to pen the epic radio style drama, I suppose. Number 243, LA Noir. First game for the Now or Never event, and now I wish I never played it. Upon reflection, I have come to the conclusion that the soundtrack and part of the arson desk were the only good things. Just as noirs are black and white, there is good and bad, and this game is bad, an open and shut case if ever I've seen one. If that slip of the tongue has set you off, coal your jets, it's nothing personal. See if reading on Phelps, you understand why I disliked this game. The respawning street crimes made collectible vehicles a bastard in free roam. They also had unskippable cutscenes before the Jankfest mini missions started. Up until the late game, the story was slow as molasses in January. If it was the tortoise, the hare would have won because the tortoise moved so slow it couldn't even overtake the hare as it rested. What a lovely run-on sentence, sir. Everything about the gameplay was about as enjoyable as dipping your balls in honey and sunbathing by a hornet's nest. It's really a line you only know from personal experience, isn't it, bro? I really wanted to like this, but it was mostly miserable. Well, look, I don't know. I don't remember it being that bad. I never played it on the PS4, only the original on the PS3, of course, by the now defunct Team Bondi Studios. Whatever happened to them, Rockstar? Couldn't throw a little money to the Australians? I don't know, but what a shame. There'll be no LA Noire 2, but for you, perhaps that is a blessing in disguise. Best Trophy Hunter ever, CSO, number 593, Chaos Child NA. After a 2-week drought with very little motivation, I finally earned a platinum. Probably through the R1 button, I imagine, sir. Skippity doodah day. James H. managed to get a platinum on my 40th birthday today. Happy birthday, sir, and congratulations on the birthday platinum. Number 359, Sinuka Attack. At least you picked a quality one, didn't you? You know, this is as good as it gets when you get to 40, trust me. You're on a downhill slide, I can speak from experience. Now back to the grind on a Blocker Picks Deluxe. 10 more levels to go for the Platinum. Only been playing it for 117 hours. so far. Wow, it's intense. And then number 360, Block a Pix Deluxe. Thank goodness that this is finally off my backlog. Probably only took around 40 to 50 hours. There we go. Most of the 153 hours I had the game on pause as I get distracted easily. They're big commitments, aren't they? I hear people that love these games. I've never got into them myself, but yeah, that's some serious color by numbers there, so congratulations. Number 361, Valentine Candy Break. Quick and easy 30-minute platinum. What will be next? Candy Break game that these people will remake. Easter Candy Break. Well, look, they'll have another 5 or 6 games before Easter, sir. You're obviously not familiar with how this company works. And of course, don't forget, in the next week or two, we'll have the head-to-head Valentine Candy Break, which will be the same game divided in half for the same price, but you will get your 2 stacks of platinums. Zuche, number 65, The Adventure Powers. I've never played this, sir. It is on my list to play, though. I've heard wonderful things about it. Congratulations. Vigilant Crow, plat number 48, Lost Sea. This is interesting. So I played this at launch, and it was a difficult game. I know it's a roguelike. I know you go on to say that here, but I found it kind of difficult. I believe at that stage there was no way. I know it's a roguelike, so I don't want to say no way to save, but no way to hold your progress in any way or something. But I think that may have been fixed in some way, or I don't remember. It was a real challenge. I think you had to try and play it all in one sitting, or some randomness, or keep it on like that. But I'm sure that's been patched out and fixed. It's a bare bones roguelite, he says. Probably not a bad starting point for someone looking to try out the genre. Perhaps I should go back and check it out. Gaz Davis, number 11. He comes in with platinum number 77, Bug Snacks. Much better than what I expected it to be. A very chilled game with a bizarre story. Yeah, I've heard this. And of course, if you want to hear more about this game, I know the wonderful Platcast podcast recently did a Patreon-style deep dive, which is available to everyone on their feed on all good podcast providers. It's not a game that I intend to touch again until the PS5, which is not something I intend to touch perhaps ever. So if you're looking for any coverage on that game, or you want to discuss the weird and cryptic ending that I've heard so much about people enjoying, then that would be the place to do it, the wonderful Platcast podcast. So there you have it, listeners. It's been another huge week of fun. It's been interesting to learn some sim games. It's been wonderful to meet a #1 Australian, even if he is the Chivo Hunter. I've had a wonderful time. I hope you have had a passable time as well. May the Chivos and trophies continue to slam on to your account in the next week. May you pillage and rape and take down the 100% as well. I'll see you on the boards. See you around. Push2Plat podcasts are conceived, written and edited by CJ Anderson in Adobe Audition, video editing in Filmora 9, music licensing by Artist.io. Push2Plat would like to thank all our Patreon supporters, with special mention to our Patreon producers Zador VP, Redbeard Rick, Ready to Ebeg, MZ Nitro, Diego and T-Bird. Without your support, this show would cease to exist. If you would like to say hi, jump into the Discord in the show notes or on Twitter at Push2Plat. If you're interested in supporting the show, then jump on Patreon, the Push2Plat Patreon, where you can find more information on how to support us and allow us to continue to bring wonderful guests and topics from around the world.